Hi, welcome back to the National Hurricane Center. This is Ken Graham. We're right here live in our operations area with the latest update on Hurricane Florence. And actually, we're going to break what we normally do here because this just came in. I heard it called out over my shoulder. Let's go straight to Stacy Stewart. Stacy's on duty again on the day shift, looking at the hurricane. And Stacy, you're watching the radar. What new information do you have?
Well, Ken, based on radar data and also an observing site at Johnny Mercer Pier in Wrightsville Beach, it's a NOAA, Ocean Observing Service observing site, indicates that the wind has shifted. The pressure reached a minimum, has now increased. So around 7:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time this morning, Florence has officially declared landfall near Wrightsville Beach.
Thank you, Stacy. That's brand new. So once that got called out, we decided to go ahead and talk to Stacy. So there you heard, we have landfall this morning. Get the microphone back on and continue with the broadcast here. But yeah, very dangerous situation. We have landfall, and again, we remind you not necessarily concentrating on that landfall because remember this is a very large storm. So Wilmington's been under the eye wall for quite a long time, and there's the crossing where we're having the landfall as we speak. But not just the center. You have your intense hurricane force winds in here, but also look at these rain bands, very strong rain bands, well away from the center, and that's where we're seeing some of those higher wind gusts and the possibility of tornadoes. Tornadoes are always a possibility in some of those rain bands. Yeah, very dangerous situation looking at radar. The other point is long-term onshore flow, and that's causing some of our water rises as well. I do want to get to the forecast. Let's look at this forecast. Very similar. We really haven't changed it very much, and the big story is partially the track, but really is the speed. Look how slow this system is. Looking at time, not a lot of geography. So from landfall just minutes ago all the way into South Carolina, and by the way, this is 2 p.m. Saturday. That's not a lot of geography that we cover. So that is a long time to have these high winds. Once again, you look back in the hurricane force winds. This is the tropical storm force winds, much larger than the cone, much larger than the center. So even well away from the center, you can get some of these winds. And when you saturate the soil, all of a sudden you start getting trees down and power outages. So let's make sure we're still thinking about this as not just one point, but a very large area of impact. It's going to take some time to get out of here. And this is right here is Monday in the morning, 2 a.m. and that is 2 a.m. on Tuesday. So no steering currents, and finally we have a system come in to carry this out. But before that's all said and done, it's going to leave a wake of water and river flooding and a whole lot of impacts. I do want to look at some of those impacts right now. We start seeing storm surge, already getting reports of quite a bit of storm surge in the water, and that's one of the most deadly parts of these hurricanes. Let's look at some of the values that we have in North Carolina, 7 to 11 feet. 6 to 9 feet. You can see these values well up the coast, all the way to the Virginia border, potentially getting 2 to 4 feet. But one thing I want to really show here, because I think it's extremely important, is the longer you have this hurricane wind flow, the longer you can push some of that water well inland. And what I want to show you is this right here. Look how far inland that 7 to 11 feet is. Notice, look how far away from the coast. And that's something that we've been talking about for a while. And I really want to dial into that because it's an important point. This is what's happening. So that's the area that I circled well inland. So these are rivers. You start looking at the Neuse River and the Pamlico River where the water normally flows out when it rains. In a situation like this with the hurricane force winds, all this water is blown right up into these river basins, and as a result it piles up. New Bern, you look at areas around Greenville, how the water piles up in those areas. But look how far. I mean, you're really far inland with some of those high values of the surge. And the other factor here is that blocks some of the drainage of the rain. So you put a lot of rain on this, trying to drain into these rivers, you start backing them up. So you start getting flooding well inland. So it really is about the water. It's a very dangerous situation, and we're seeing some of those water rises with time. So let's look at some of the other impacts as well. We got the storm surge, very deadly situation, but let's look at the rainfall too, because this is something very related to the speed of the storm. Right around the center where we have the landfall, and also well inland here, 20 inches, 30 inches, maybe some isolated 40-inch values. But let's talk inland as well. So the rain concentrated near the coast, but look how far inland. You got Charlotte potentially getting some of these values, 10 to 15 inches. Roanoke getting into Virginia, 6 to 10. Some of those values could be higher. We've been mentioning, depending on the track, depending on the speed, some of these values could shift back and forth. So be very careful when you're living right on the edge and making decisions about, well, looks like we're going to be okay. Well, this could shift depending on the track. So we have to be real careful with those type of situations. And of course, the other threat, we did mention the tornado threat. That's another one. Water is going to be the most important thing here. But in fact, we could get some of these tornadoes. And remember, the longer we have those winds over land, the longer that we have a chance to knock down those trees and have the power outages. So that is a look at the latest on Hurricane Florence right here. You heard it live. The landfall, a very dangerous situation, definitely a life-threatening situation. We will keep you updated. We'll be watching this all day from the Hurricane Center. We appreciate the partnership. We got the buoys. We've got a whole NOAA effort here putting things together with the satellites and the observations is amazing. And a quick shout out to local offices. We have a local office in Wilmington, and they're all on the coast getting those warnings out, and they're battling right in the hurricane, keeping everybody informed, getting those warnings out to keep everybody safe. So big group effort here, Hurricane Center, throughout the Weather Service and NOAA. We will keep you posted. This has been Ken Graham here at the National Hurricane Center's Operation Area.